Okay, first question. Did you end up giving Jeremy the quiz? What did you end up doing at the end?
I didn't give him the quiz, but I gave him chunks of the lessons. I also told him that he needs to meet with me first. When he's anxious like that it's safe to come to me because I'd rather him be here than be worried in the bathroom on his own.
Yes, I did have Jeremy take the quiz. I did have him take it in chunks of the day, so that way he could get to see it, try to see what he knows, and then we could review together, and then he could take the other bits of the quiz. I made that choice because I felt that students still need to meet at least the bar of expectations, and then not to penalize them if they don't meet it, but instead help them and then be able to see where they were, where they can be after that as well.
I did have him take the quiz, and I had him take the quiz because he should be held to the same level as other kids, but we were going to use this to inform later teaching of him.
Did anyone else not give the quiz?
I was operating under the assumption that he was too confused or embarrassed in class to ask about it in front of his peers. So I had him stay after school on the day that they were supposed to take the quiz, and I sort of retaught the lesson for him based on what I believed like his needs were, and then I let him take the quiz the next day.
Can you tell us, like, what are one or two pieces of evidence from the week that stood out to you that made you think he was confused? Like, what are the things that you noticed in the earlier days that?
I feel like that notebook with the scribbles was like, when I first saw the scribbles, I was like, And then I saw it again and it got bigger and I was like,
I took it as, so I viewed that there were a couple possibilities, that was either him showing signs that you may not be understanding, or signs that he gets it so well that he doesn't need to take notes.
It's really good, like that a couple of different people saw the squiggles. So some people probably noticed them and they were really salient, and some people maybe like it didn't seem as relevant to them. And then when people do notice them, we made different inferences about what they mean. So some people jumped to that squiggle must mean that they've got it and don't need to write things down, and other people said that squiggle means they don't got it, like they're not keeping track of what's going on. So it's just good for us to be conscious of how, as our days teaching go along, there are different things that different people notice, and then we draw different inferences based on how we interpret what we notice, and then from that we make different decisions.
Effort and sacrifice guarantee that students will have opportunities to succeed. Do you agree with that? And how does your opinion of that statement translate to your instructional practice with a student like Jeremy?
It's definitely something I've been grappling with a lot. I think the main kind of like summed up question that I'm grappling with is, if a student gives effort, does that guarantee success? I think a lot of my like internal dilemma with equity is I see their lack of effort, and therefore that is like the thing that is maybe triggering to me. It's been something that is like always on my mind, is kind of like the balance of high expectations but like being understanding. I think that is a really hard tension for me.
I just felt that for every student, effort and sacrifice are two very different things, depending on them. They might have situations where effort and sacrifice means they have to work an extra job, then they have to study, then they have to take care of siblings. Their parents are in and out, so their level of sacrifice might be immensely greater than another student's. So we just have to be cognizant of that.
I think for me, my idea of standard is still equity. I feel like you set the bar and then you help them reach that goal. And no matter what that looks like for that student, they also have the same goals, but it's like, how do we help them get there?
I think it's building on like talking to them. You start to see that maybe something they actually need might be different, but then you, at some point, you don't feel like you're leaving anyone out because you're building that relationship with everybody and trying to make sure that you're putting the supports in no matter what they are.
It was really helpful and for me to be reflective of, oh man, I really need to like stop and think, where are my current students at, and what patterns or trends am I seeing in their behaviors that are maybe impacting their confidence or their academic achievement.
Like we're just a part of the journey with them, and that we build in the supports there for them to make them successful, or to help them be successful, but not only academically, like the whole student.
It definitely made me think of experiences with students in the past. I think I have seen, I was more reflecting after and seeing kind of my journey as an educator and how many Jeremys I didn't serve well, especially in my first couple of years of teaching, of not trying to understand where they were coming from and just thinking that like what they were doing was a personal attack on me or was them being lazy.
So during the Jeremy experiment, I recommended that he not take the test that day, and that we schedule another time for him to take the test, but very soon thereafter. Because we had sort of a similar related conversation this morning, and I realized in practice, do I really do that? I was like, gosh, am I different in practice than I am in a hypothetical? It's a very interesting thing to think about this morning.
So there's lots of different answers that people have, and it's less about sort of what exactly you chose to do and more like what's the kind of reasoning that you bring to the decision that you have. There are just so many ways of looking at sort of the same sources of data and using different kinds of reasoning to think about, ultimately the question like what would best serve all of our kids.